I'm sure everybody's heard the term augmented reality, right? Anybody who's not heard of AR? Now, I want to start with this picture. Can you guys tell me what this picture has to do with the topic today? So this is a painting, and this is an actual flower, right? So that's actually a good introduction to what AR does, right? It kind of blurs the line between what is real and what is virtual, right? Can somebody quickly explain AR to me? Right, so. Right. Absolutely. So that's really augmented reality, right? I mean, you superimpose a virtual object on top of a real life object in front of you, right? So here's what I'll do. I won't spend too much time introducing AR because I think most of you know about it. I'm going to focus, and again, even AR and technical communication, some of you would have seen examples of how AR has been used in Tech Comm. What I'm going to focus on mostly is how at Cisco we've implemented AR and what are the steps that we've really gone through, right? How the thinking process behind operationalizing something like this on a large scale, right? Right from POC to rolling it out across products, right? That's the main focus of the talk. But for those of you who haven't seen AR in action, AR has mostly been, it's very famous in gaming, right? You all heard of Pokemon Go and all of that, right? So this is an example of the colors are not that great, but this is an example of how, this is called ARKit. How many of you heard of ARKit? ARKit is SDK that Apple has introduced to develop AR applications for iOS, right? So this was a demo that they did of ARKit, what you can do with that. Right?
We're using ARKit to detect the plate on the table, estimate its size, and lock our content on the surface. And since this is augmented reality, you folks are all in the shop too. This is all rendered in real time using the power of Unreal Engine 4. And what's really cool here is that with ARKit's tracking, you can get really close and choose how to view the action. It's like you're the director of your own experience. Whoa, well, I guess that takes care of that guy. Wouldn't it be cool to have airship battles like this in your own living room?
I'm not sure if you got what is happening because the colors are not that great, but basically what you see here, right, is being superimposed on this plain table here, right? And you can see everything, you can see the crowd behind that as well. So that's really AR for you, right? So I'm going to quickly switch and go into AR in Tech Comm. How many of you have seen AR being implemented in our industry? Yeah, can you want to talk about that? Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And do you know who's done that? Which companies come up with? It's Bosch actually that has a. There are other companies that have done it, but Bosch came up with a common augmented reality platform. Which is, I have that example right here, right? This is what you're talking about, right? So you can actually point your phone or a tablet at a car, right? And it'll tell you, so this stuff that you see here is all virtually imposed on top of the cabling there, right? It can give you videos, it can give you specific instructions on what to do, right? So somebody who's not so familiar with the car can also, do the repair. This example here is using a software called Scope AR. You can look it up. So this specific example is elevators. The company called ThyssenKrupp, they do elevators. So their elevator mechanics, instead of looking up manuals, they're wearing a HoloLens, a Microsoft HoloLens, which enables AR, and they can actually see all of this overlaid on top of the elevator itself, right? So they know exactly what to do without looking up anything. And in this specific example, if you can look up the video on YouTube, they also have a facility where they, if they're stuck somewhere, they can call a remote technician, right? And the remote technician can see exactly what you're seeing, right? A remote expert, right? And they can guide you, through specific steps. This is the first one I want to talk about, Boeing. How many of you know about Boeing's use of AR? Okay, so Boeing did a study quite some time back. What they did is they took 3 sets of people. One set, this is for assembling an aircraft wing, right? They used trainees to assemble an aircraft wing. And one set used PDFs on the desktop. One set used PDFs on a tablet, so they were right next to what they were doing, and the other set used AR-enabled instructions, right, which was directly overlaid on top of the wing, right? And they found that the folks who used, the group that used AR did things 30% faster, right, than the folks who use PDF, right? And most importantly, the first-time accuracy was higher by 90%. Right? And that's, I mean, even if you don't get those kind of results in your company, right, even a fraction of that, right, there's a huge use case for AR within Tech Talks. Right? So I just want to set that, a context before I move on to what we've done. Any questions till now? I just want to quickly take, so Cisco is a company that deals with networking hardware and software, right? We have a lot of hardware, the routers and switches that basically run the internet. And there are people who, the specific example I'm going to show you is, this is called a Cisco Digital Building Switch. This thing here, right? It's a networking switch, but it's actually installed before any networking is done in a building, right? It enables smart lighting and stuff. So what actually happens is an electrician, when he does the wiring, the electrical wiring, they are supposed to install these switches, right? And obviously an electrician wouldn't have, dealt with networking hardware before, right? So what we try to do here is kind of take the pain out of installing a complex device, right? I'll just run the video, it'll speak for itself, and then I'll... So this gives you examples of what you can do with AR.
At Cisco, we are constantly looking at new ways to help our customers access information about the products they own. Our latest offering is based on Augmented Reality, or AR, a technology that uses your mobile device to add a virtual layer over the real world for a rich and interactive experience. Our AR solution makes product information available at your fingertips, literally. To experience this, just download the free Blipper AR app and point your smartphone or tablet at select Cisco devices to see hotspots on the devices. Click the hotspots to access information about the device, such as descriptions of each device component. The AR solution helps you install and configure a Cisco device, eliminating the need to read through an installation manual. Studies show that using AR for installation tasks increases efficiency by 30% and first-time accuracy by up to 90%. If you are the kind who likes the good old PDF documents better, you can access them as well using this app. We continue to create these experiences for you based on our analysis of customer support requests. This ensures that you, as our customer, have instant access to content that is most relevant to you. Come, reimagine your content experience today with the power of the Cisco AR solution.
And it's done 2 or 3 things. One, you can do things like overlay information specifically. As you saw that view paths thing, right? It was labeling different paths, right? And you click on that and you get a description of that part. The thing to note there is that, you're back. So, you can overlay things on top of the, device. And remember that it is, what do you call it? It's sensitive to what space it is in, right? If you move your phone up and down, the markers are not going, the labels are not going to move. It knows what it's seeing and it'll stay there. Those labels will stay there, right? The other thing you saw is we can do animation. So we can actually literally show, it's more powerful than doing a video. I mean, we say videos are powerful, right? This is actually showing you exactly what to do right there in front of the device, right? You don't have to go to YouTube, watch a video and come back and apply it to your device, right? And the third thing you can do is obviously, your existing documentation. Again, you don't have to go to another place. Within the same app, you can access the existing documentation as well. So those are a few things that you can do with this app. So we're using a third-party app called Blipper. There are many apps you can use. This is just one that we've used. So any questions about what we've done? And what I'll do is I'll move on to, so AR is still an emerging technology, right? There are certain challenges that you have to, that are still there that you have to work with, right? And there are a lot of things that you think about when you're operationalizing it. But before I get into it, any questions, specific questions about what we've implemented? Is that the only? That's if I understand what you're saying, are you asking that when you point at the device, there is a sequence that gets triggered? Right? It's not a sequence that gets triggered. It just gives you that first thing that you saw, right? When you point at the device, the only thing you see is this, right? And you have to interact with it, right? You click, for example, I don't know if it's very visible here, but you see this? This says introducing CDB. So if I click on this, it gives me a blurb of what this device really is, right? It gives me an introduction. This says view paths. If I click here, it gives me that labeling that you saw, right? And I click on that and I get the details. And I can come back to this home screen, right? If you click here, you see the animation that you saw. And if you click here, you see the standard documentation. Right? So you control the sequence. It doesn't, and this is something that you create in the backend. I mean, as a writer, you create this, and for the, I mean, obviously you pay to have, to create that experience. Customers can download this for free, and anybody with a phone and this Blipper app can, experience this. Did that answer your question? Did I get your question right? Okay. It is very easy to. That's a good question. So the how you create this is you have a web, interface, where you just log in, and I can just, for example, these things you see here, I can just drag and drop, put a marker image, put this image there, and just drag and drop these things, right? It's pretty simple to create. There's no coding required. You just log into the interface and just drag and drop things and, do hyperlinks. And if you want to do animation, there's some work involved, right? But it's definitely doable by somebody with by a normal writer with, absolutely no. Yeah, so were you asking about updating content that is in this experience, Srikanth? So I publish this now. If say, for example, if something changes in my documentation, so this that you see here, this is not pushed directly to the app. This is directly linking to my website. So any changes I make in the documentation is dynamically updated, right? But if there's anything that I'm pushing, these things are directly in the app. If I want to change anything, I just log into the web interface and make that change and publish it. It becomes live immediately. So it's a very. No, app doesn't need to be replaced. Anything that I publish is automatically, so you don't have to do anything to the app. App is only a one-time install, right? Any content gets, whenever I do an update in my web interface, it gets updated automatically in the app. It's because every time it recognizes the device, it's not pulling it locally, it's pulling it from a server, right? So it always gets the latest information, yeah? Okay, I'll move on, I have about 20 minutes left. So I was talking about limitations, right? So I just want to, is there a question? Yeah, you've done this on a hardware device. Have you tried it on software? That's a good question. So augmented reality works when you have a physical device in front of you, right? If you want AR for software, I think you should look at WhatFix, which is basically, kind of superimposing stuff on top of your UI, right? Right, so HoloLens is a device that enables you to experience AR. In this example that you saw here, they use HoloLens, right? HoloLens is just a device. What Blipper, you're talking about Blipper versus HoloLens, right? Yeah. So Blipper is an app that lets you publish a AR experience, right? HoloLens and AR can be experienced on a mobile, on a tablet, or on what these things. These things are called wearables. So HoloLens is a wearable, right? So there are apps that you use to create an experience for HoloLens. HoloLens doesn't let you, create an experience. It just lets you experience the what you've created, right? So that's the difference. There are specific apps. In fact, a lot of apps where once you create the content, you can easily push it to a tablet, to a phone, to to a HoloLens, to other devices as well, right? Blipper doesn't work with HoloLens, by the way. Okay, so how does it recognize a device, right? You, when you're focusing on the device, how does the app recognize the device? In this case, what it's done is we put a image, just one image of the device in the backend, right? And it's kind of doing a very good image match algorithm, right? So this called the marker. This entire thing is called a marker. It uses it as a marker image. It basically compares whatever the camera is seeing with whatever whatever images it has in its database, right? And then once it recognizes, it's pushing the content through for that image, right? So that's called a marker. Now the problem is today most AR apps, right, use markers like this. So marker can either be an image of the entire, device. Okay, there's something wrong here. The one that you see at the bottom, it can actually be an image of the entire device, or it can be a glorified QR code like this, right? So instead of trying to recognize the entire device, what the camera will look for, this is an app called Zapper. It's another app like Blipper. You can actually paste this onto your device, like a sticker onto your device, and what it'll do is it'll just look for that glorified QR code. You see these markings here, right? These are distinct markings, right? Which specifically tell you that, what device it is. So you have to use markers today, to identify a device, right? Now the problem there is, first of all, these markers, obviously, these QR code kind of things, when you have a huge install base, like Cisco, you have hundreds of thousands of devices already installed, you cannot go and, kind of put these stickers on all of it, right? That's not possible. So that's why we went with this approach of using an image of the device, right? Now the problem there is, at least I'm sure other companies will face that too. You cannot predict what your device is going to look like in the field, right? This, for example, is actually the same device, exactly the same device with different modules, right? And you don't know what the configuration is going to be at the customer site, right? This is again, you might have an image of the router as your marker image, but you cannot plan for how, the cabling is going to be, right? You can't plan for this. And obviously, when it tries to map the image, it's not going to recognize it, right? So considering this, AR, at least with the apps that I've seen today, you cannot implement it for a troubleshooting or that kind of scenario where you go into the lab and inside the lab you kind of look at the device, right? What it will work for though is an installation use case, right? Where you're taking the device out of the box, you know exactly what it's going to look like, right? So you can put that as a marker image, and then you can kind of guide the person who's installing it through different steps to install the device. So that's the use case we settled on after looking at different possible use cases, right? Now, any questions till now? I'm going to switch to how to kind of go through a pilot to kind of roll it out across. Any questions till now? Okay. So the first thing obviously you'll do, anything new that you try, right? You'll obviously do a pilot, right? And what we did is we did a pilot with Blipper. Now we chose Blipper. I'm not advocating Blipper in any sense, but it's easy to use. You just kind of, as I said, log in. Anybody without any, programming experience, you can just kind of easily create. In fact, my manager's here. He's given me a target of creating experiences within 3 minutes. And that might not be possible, but it's very easy to do, right? So yeah, and again, initial investment is not too much, right? Their pricing plans and all vary, but it's not like a huge investment to create an AR experience with apps like these, right? So obviously you start off with a ready-made app. I wouldn't recommend you go and build your own AR app. Obviously, and there's ease of deployment, right? Something like Blipper, you can easily roll out things if, once your pilot works. Now, once you've done that and you figure out that from your customers that it's something that's working for you, then you might want to consider a more custom app that can maybe connect. How many of you have networking devices from networking companies? Okay, quite a big, yeah. And also, most of you would have some kind of hardware device or the other, right? So what you can do with a custom app, the advantage of having an in-house, inbuilt custom app is that you can maybe, make connections to your network, right? Now, how a ready-made app like Blipper works is, it works directly over the internet, it goes to the Blipper server, all of that, right? If it's an internal thing, you can actually connect it to, say, for example, your network controller, right? Which is the controller that controls all the routers and switches, right? And maybe get direct, so all this information that you saw here, right, in that earlier one, all of that information is static. Static in the sense, it is information that I have published. Right? It's information I've published. I can update it if I want, but till I update, that remains static, right? Now, if you have a custom app, what you could try and do is, maybe pull information directly from the network controller, right? So, for example, you can say, when you look at this device, it can tell you that the port connections that you've made, right, are incorrect, because it knows what the correct ports should be, right? It goes back to the network controller, sees that it's not working, right? And tells you that, the expected, it's not very visible here, but it can tell you, right, that and we don't have this today, it's just possibilities that you can explore with AR, right? So you can give customized information, real-time information, and that's going to be extremely helpful troubleshooting, right? You go in front of a device, you don't know what's happening, right? You just point it, mobile at it, and it tells you this is exactly what is wrong and this is what you need to do, right? So that's one use case that you can do with customized software. Questions? Okay. Okay, so now if you've done a pilot, you figured out what you want to do, right? The next question you really ask yourself is, should I roll it out for all my products, right? That might make sense for some companies, but not necessarily for all companies. I'll give you an example, right? The video that you saw was a Cisco digital building switch that's installed by an electrician, by definition, somebody who's not knowledgeable about networking switches, right? It makes sense in that context. If you're talking about installing, an expert who's installing something in a data center, they won't really need you to handhold them through an installation step, right? So you wouldn't roll it out for something like that. So what we really did is we kind of spoke to our marketing team, right, and figured out which are the products that are typically installed by lesser skilled workers, and we started rolling out AR experience for those products. And we're using it for new launches as well, but that's more for the, overall innovation factor, right? But the usefulness really comes out, when a device is being installed by somebody who really doesn't know how to do it, right? So that's, you would want to think through things like that before you decide who you're going to do it for, which products you're going to do it for. Yeah, and it has to be, there's absolutely no point. You saw those instructions, right? I mean, the animation. If you know what you're doing, you really don't need all of that. It's just, you would just want to probably refer to documentation when you're stuck somewhere, that's all. So that's that. Okay, the next question you ask yourself, see, at the end of the day, AR is just a technology, right? It's not enabling, it's enabling you to deliver content in a specific manner, right? That is very user-friendly. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is what kind of content should go in there, because content is what really makes, the experience useful, right? So if you want to categorize AR content, there are two types of content that you can look at. One is content that I like to call spatially aware content, right? That's this kind of content that you saw, right? You see this cable is going exactly into the port that is that it's supposed to go to, right? And these, I spoke about this earlier, right? These boxes are actually aware where they're being projected. If I move my phone up or down, it still maintains its position. It doesn't go up or down, right? So that's spatially aware content. So that's one type of content. The other type is what somebody at Boeing called informed reality. It's not augmented reality. It's basically, you're just describing something. You're not projecting it on top of that device. It's just a set of links that you can get information about. So there's a device in front of you. You can go read up about it. You don't have to go to another place. You can get it right there, right? So there are two general types of content you can include. You really have to figure out what makes sense in your context, right, for your product. Do your people need these kind of instructions, right? Where, are they not familiar with the device? Do they need those kind of descriptions? Or do you just want to kind of give, them pointers to where the documentation is, right? So these are questions that you need to ask yourself. And most importantly, all the experiences that we are creating after we talk to all our stakeholders, including customer support, product management, all of them, right? What we're trying to do is at the very least give the customer, curate all the relevant information about a product and kind of bring it all into one place. So even if you don't have fancy animation or all of that, right? You're at least solving a big customer issue, which is findability of content. I'm sure all of you have, those issues in your company, right? Customers always, you have to go to 20 different places to find something, right? Here, what you do is, I'll give you one example. We showed this at a customer event, and we put some specific information, some compatibility information there, the recommendation of our customer support, right? And most people who came there came and said, this is information. I mean, it's simple information, but it's very difficult to find, right? This is exactly what we're looking for. So when you make your content choices, as with any other document, right, you make sure that you, make the right choices and you get all the relevant content in the solution. Questions? 10 minutes? Okay. Okay, I'm pretty much almost done. So the next thing obviously is scaling the solution, right? You've done it for a few products. What do you need to do to kind of roll it out across a larger set of products, right? So, I mean, reskilling, there is some amount of reskilling that you probably need to do. Not a lot, really, right? But I would think a little bit of visual thinking, I mean, going away from your writing mindset, right? And looking at it in terms of, okay, here's a guy standing in front of a device trying to install it. What are the steps that I need to do, to kind of take that person through it, right? How do I work with animations, 3D models, right? That's the kind of reskilling. And I wouldn't, so the tool itself is not a big deal. If you're using something like Blipper, I mean, a 1-hour training session is all that you really need, right? I think the thought process, right, the narrative process is what you need to think through, right? How do you move from remotely kind of impersonally describing a procedure versus, imagining yourself in front of the device and kind of hand-holding somebody through that entire process, right? That's a reskilling that you need. It's more of a mental shift. From if you want to do animations, yes, you will need somebody with skills, 3D modeling skills, Illustrator skills, and all of that. But it's not something that a writer can't do. Obviously, you'll need templates if you want uniformity across, right? And you will need to build a kind of a repository of reusable artifacts, right? So that it speeds up the entire process. And at the end of the day, right, I mean, any new thing that you do is successful only if your customers adopt it, right? You need a very strong customer adoption strategy. Make sure that, you kind of work with your product marketing and all of them to, how do you ensure that customers know about this? How do you get feedback? How do you, kind of make sure that people start using this, right? I'm going to move on. Yeah, so this is obviously, I mean, one way to do it is, if you have your customer events or, you do some testing, you show your pilots to your customers, get feedback from them. We have this event called Cisco Live where, we kind of get all partners and customers together. So we've shown this at places and we've taken feedback from customers, direct feedback, right? And we've used that to kind of fine tune a solution, right? So that's important. And at the end of the day, anything that you do, right, has to have some kind of success measure, right? It has to, I mean, it's really cool, augmented reality, and I'll be the first to admit, right, I jumped into it because it is a cool thing to do, right? But very soon we kind of realized that there is value to it, right? Now we are in the process of defining what are the, what are the kind of metrics that you want to track? How do you decide whether something like this has been useful, right? One metric would obviously be your support requests, right? So if you track, for example, how many customer support calls have you got, for installing this device, right? Before AR versus after AR. So that's one way you can do it. But yeah, I mean, different companies, you have to figure out, at the end of the day, you have to figure out some quantifiable metric. Otherwise, it's just going to stay, a cool technology, right? You're not going to be able to show the business value for it. Yeah, that's about it. So the last thing I want to end with is, as I said, it is an emerging technology. There are a lot of things that still need to be worked out. There are a couple of things that I want to highlight. One is, you need, I'm going to talk about the second point first. You need a lot of machine learning to kind of, you saw those two examples I showed, right? The devices were looking very different, right? Rather than doing a one-to-one image mapping algorithm, you need machine learning for the app to really recognize, oh, this is the same device, it's just a few wires here and there, right? Or, there are some modules extra, but actually it's the same device. So you need that level of AI, artificial intelligence built into a solution for it to be really successful in, say, for example, a troubleshooting scenario, right? If you want to go beyond the installation use case, that's something that needs to happen. And the industry today is not really there, right? I'd say it'll take at least a year, for apps to get there. Right? The other thing is somebody referred to that in an earlier session. Content security is an issue because all apps today, they don't work within your network, right? They are a separate database. So all your content is cycled through that app database. So if you can't obviously put anything confidential out there, right? And the AR world, because it's mostly been in gaming and stuff, it's not really, the technology is old, by the way. I think it's been decades since the first AR thing came out, right? But its application in the enterprise world, in the corporate world, right, has been fairly recent. So security measures are not that high. For example, Blipper, when we started working with Blipper, they didn't even have a password policy for their, for their login, right? So security is an issue. And unless they address that, AR is not going to be, there is a lot of potential in enterprise, in corporate world, but it's not going to realize its full potential till at least these two things are addressed. Yeah. That's all I had. I can take more questions.
Cisco come up with something for home users, like, for the home routers, someone, I mean, as, I might not know anything about a router, but has Cisco come up with something to help with, home? And the thing is, with the IoT, coming in a big way. So is there something that Cisco has come up with to connect the, smart devices within the house? So that way. Yeah.
So your first question, we haven't come up with for anything with home routers because we don't deal with home, we don't deal with consumer equipment, right? I'm glad you brought up IoT. This example that you saw here, the Cisco Digital Building Switch, is actually something that enables IoT. It does smart lighting, it connects all your lights, within your house, right? So that's a good example of how, AR and IoT intersect, right? So, yeah.
Okay, hi, my name is Venkatesh. I work for a company called Mitel. Before Mitel, I worked for a company called Alcatel-Lucent, now called as Nokia. So in 2013, I presented a paper on augmented reality and technical documentation in STC Annual Conference. It was in Goa. So in Alcatel-Lucent, I was working on a product called Small Cells, which is basically a small router. So I thought we could actually use augmented reality for such a product. There are several variants of a small cell. So one of the variants is a home cell, where a consumer actually buys a home cell, then installs it in his home. So my concept there was at that point of time, you install the home cell and the consumer wouldn't know what to do exactly with it. So what I came up with at that point of time is that I used this Metio software application. I took a photograph of the home cell, I put it, and then I superimposed instructions and labels for various buttons and what each button does. Yes, exactly like what you did. So at that point of time, after I presented the paper, I came back to the company and we had some discussions, but it didn't push through because nobody knew how to actually implement it and the cost and how do we deliver it. And also, after that, kept in touch with AR, and I was of this impression, that it wouldn't make it in enterprise domain. It will actually make it into marketing and in consumer goods space. But last year, Nokia actually did something with augmented reality. They have some installation instructions superimposed on the actual device, and to see now that you have something, it's great actually.
Actually, in 2013, you were a little ahead of your time because the enterprise implementations have started only a few years back, right? And there is an organization actually called AREA, Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance. They are actually working on standards, for AR in the enterprise. So people are taking it seriously today.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Aarti. I have known of augmented reality to be of two types, like marker-based and markerless. So whatever the examples that you showed us, first you showed a QR code and then you had a photograph of your switch. So I kind of assumed it to be marker-based. Or am I understanding wrong, or is it bordering on markerless?
That's a good question. They call it markerless, but it's not really true markerless because the image itself acts as a marker, right? With ARKit and ARCore, ARKit is Apple, ARCore is Google. They've come up recently with true markerless AR, but it cannot be applied to a situation like this. It doesn't work, for example, if I take it to my routers that look differently. It works with more simple things that don't look very different. So to answer your question, there is technology today that does true markerless AR, right? Where you don't have to put an image in the backend, right? But it's not ready for an enterprise deployment as yet. When you hear of marker versus markerless, in the earlier implementations, they were actually talking about having a separate, sticker versus not having a separate sticker. So markerless, in a sense, would refer to what we have done, right? Where we don't have to go and put stickers on devices. It is possible, not with this app. Right? So Blipper doesn't let you. You always have to connect, to the server. There are Scope AR is one app that lets you do an offline copy. There are many others that let you do. The reason we didn't go with that is because those apps need markers. So I have to, for Scope AR to work on this, I have to put a sticker on my device, right? So that's why we didn't go with that. But if you're okay with that model where you put a sticker, a marker onto your device, then Scope AR, for example, and there are many others, but Scope AR lets you do, and Scope AR also, by the way, lets you do very easy animation. You don't need to have any 3D model knowledge. Just throw a CAD diagram into the app. It kind of splits it up, and you can do, just right click and kind of do animations. Really cool.
So I just wanted to know, as a person who doesn't really have a lot of coding experience or probably no experience, how easy or difficult it would be to maybe create like a basic implementation of AR
Hi, I'm Asha. I come from a non-technical background, and I most probably, or rather, worked on almost. So, from my experience, the user interface is pretty simple. You need not, you need not be good with your coding skills and all. The interface helps you to drag and drop assets. Basically, you create all these elements that you see: the home screen button, the interactive buttons, icons. Images, everything can be uploaded onto your interface and just drag and drop. So basically it is like once you have all your assets ready in your interface, it is basically just creating scenes and just connecting the scenes, that's it. So this is Blip.
But most tried using this for troubleshooting, but the roadblock we hit was this: we don't really know what a device is going to look like. So though it might work, we cannot guarantee that it will work in a lab setting where you have all kinds of wires going here and there, right? So with the technology available to us today, what we've done is we've implemented the installation use case, right? If the other use case that we are looking at is doing an internal network connection, a customized app, right, where you can push dynamic information directly about the the device, the connection state, all of those, whether connections are wrong or correct, right? All of that can be pushed directly. So that's a use case we're exploring that we haven't implemented yet. But with the apps that I've seen today, this is a good use case you can start with and then explore to see what else is possible.
Thank you very much. If I can please request Julie Anthony, STC Mumbai City representative, to present a token of appreciation, please.